My name is Greg Goodland. I'm the Rio Grande National Forest Public Affairs Officer, and happy to present the fire management session today with Doug Currie, the fire management officer, who I'm seeing. Oh, now I see him. And yeah, we kind of want to just have a little open session like we usually do. He's got a great presentation for us, but I believe he's wanting it to be fairly interactive. I'll let him say that himself. But I have many recurring folks, so a little bit of housekeeping. We'll have a giveaway, door prize. Do you call it a door prize online? But we'll have a giveaway, and so if you'd like to be involved in that giveaway, go ahead and put your name in the chat, and you can put it into just me or everyone is fine, and then we'll enter you for that drawing. In order to use some of the tools on this Zoom meeting, you can go ahead and hover your mouse over the bottom end of that, and you'll see some of those icons come up. To use the chat, you'll have to click on the More button, and then you'll see the chat option come available to you. Yeah, let's see. God, Kelly normally does this, so geez, you guys are getting the bad part of me. But yeah, anyway, little housekeeping. We request that folks keep their microphones on the mute unless you're wanting to ask a question. And there are a couple of different ways to ask questions. You have the ability to raise your hand. Again, you can do that in the icons at the bottom or more, and it'll show you the ability to do that. Or you can just pop on and respectfully request a question. So I think with that, I would like to introduce Doug Currie, again, the Rio Grande National Forest Fire Management Officer, and invite him to come on screen, say hello, and start chatting with us, Doug.
Is that working, Greg?
It is.
Perfect. Well, thanks for folks hopping on. Greetings from sunny/humid Louisiana, where I'm currently on a fire assignment helping out down here in the South. And I appreciate the opportunity that Greg and Kelly gave me to brag about our program here in the Rio. I know the initial impetus of this was to talk about the 24 fire season, what it might be, and how we prepare for it. But I got to thinking into it, and it was, well, do people even know what we do? So not so much how we prepare for, but what exactly do we do, and how are we organized, and what does fire management look like on a national forest? And so I kind of went down a rabbit hole of slide after slide. So I kept it to 30. You guys will be out in 45. Should be painless. So a little bit about myself. I'm very new to the forest, but not to the region. I've been the forest fire management officer for 6 months now. This is my third go round working at that level on a variety of units. So pretty versed in a wide array of different forest projects, problems, and procedures. And good to be back in Colorado. I used to work in Gunnison once upon a time, right over the divide, and have very fond memories of that part of the state. And this is just a hop, skip, and a jump from there. So I jumped at the chance to join this team, and I'm glad I did. We have an amazing group of employees that make up the Rio Grande Fire and Fuels Management Program, and I'm here to not talk about me, but to talk about them. So with that, Greg, should we just hop into some PowerPoint stuff, and then we can get some questions out of that? Because I think it'll spark some questions.
Yes, and I'm just double checking right now, but I don't know that Rob allowed you to share your screen yet. He hasn't allowed me, did he?
Let's see here, I've got a share something.
If you
Screen. Let's see here. Now I'm working off an iPad, so this could be interesting.
Don't you love technology, folks?
Yep, that's not happening.
Did it say the host is disabled?
Nope, it's screen broadcast, but it's since there's nothing on my only the host can share in the meeting, it says. That's what it gave me. Stand by, folks. We're a group of professional problem solvers here. We'll get this. Greg's an old fire guy. He understands.
Emphasis on the old word, huh?
That's both of us, buddy.
I've messaged Kelly to ask Rob to come back on and give you that access. I think in the interim, Doug, I think it would be good to kind of start off with just a quick verbal overview of what we have on the Rio Grande National Forest and kind of how we fit in this greater scheme of United States wildland firefighting.
Sure. So, we're here in the Rio. We're a smaller program that used to be part of a larger interagency cooperative. We're still part of that, just not officially. And so in the Rio, we staff two fire engine modules and one 10-person wildland fire module. And the two engines are at the north and south end of the valley, and the fire module is based out of Monte Vista. And so that's what we respond to local incidents with. And the fun thing about us is we have tons of neighbors and we're friends with the neighbors. And so if we have a need, they're here to help us. They have a need, we're there to help them. And our neighbors, include the Bureau of Land Management, the National Park Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service, and then state and county protected lands. And so we have a great working relationship with those organizations, and that helps us immensely, and it helps them, in the reciprocal end of things. And so, for us, this is all in a PowerPoint. For us, our leadership structure is.
Excuse me, Doug.
Sure.
You now have the ability to share.
Oh, we're on. Let's see if I can do this. My thunder. I mean, I'll talk nonstop, but that's folks will learn that. All right. If I touch this screen one more time, I might go. Come on. We got this. We got a SharePoint. Nope, I don't want SharePoint. Let me see if this will get me into. I think I'm in trouble, Greg. I probably should have done this
Okay,
on my.
Kelly, can you give me the access and then I'll share?
So any participant can share right now.
Okay, well, I have a gigantic screen, so.
Let's see if this will. Nope, not that guy.
Well,
Fun
folks,
thing about new technology is, let's try.
It doesn't help that I was late. I'm so sorry about that, guys.
Is this showing up on anybody's screen?
now it is.
Yeah, we see it.
Perfect. You don't got to see me anymore. So
If you go into the presentation mode, then it'll be good. Yep, you're there. Thank you.
perfect. All right, guys, here we go. So again, welcome. Again, Doug Currie. I'm the Forest Fire Management Officer for the Rio Grande. Been here 6 months, and I'm here to give you a slight overview of the program and how we get ready for an annual season. And I'll just keep on moving through here. So the Rio, this map is kind of a cutout of forest protected lands. And, we have a little over 1.8 million acres that span 9 counties. And within that, we have 4 designated wilderness areas. And we are responsible for initial attack on federal lands within the valley through agreements with the Park Service and the BLM. And so we're a full response organization, and we don't much as you as the public, you don't care what color truck is coming as long as a truck is coming. And that's kind of our philosophy here in the Valley. And so, in that, we have a slew of cooperators, and I've only listed the ones that are signatories on a statewide agreement that we're bound by. And so it's us as the Rio. We have the BLM out of the Rocky Mountain District. They're based out of Canyon City. The Fish and Wildlife Service has staff in Monte Vista, and they have quite a bit of land in the valley proper. And then the Division of Fire Prevention and Control with the state. So those are our main cooperators. But we do also work closely with numerous local and city volunteer and paid fire departments. South Fork, La Jara, Monte Vista, Saguache. There's Crestone is in the mix. I mean, we have folks from all over the valley that we can work with, and those volunteer organizations are all managed by the state. So DFPC is the one who they're tiered under, and that's why they're not listed here, because I wouldn't have enough slides to list them all, but they are here and they're ready to help. And right before we got access, I was trying to explain how we're organized, and something to kind of think about that'll kind of click in is people are like, what does fire management mean on a forest? And the easiest way to explain it is we're organized similar to like a city or county fire department. So think fire chief and assistant chiefs and all that. We just use different titles. And so I, as the forest fire management officer, have the responsibility for all aspects of the fire program on the forest. But I do have a lot of help. I have an assistant fire management officer that helps me on a daily basis. Our forest fuels program manager is an amazing individual that has bridged gaps with communities and partners to help with our prescribed fire program. We're trying to grow that like a weed. We have some shared positions with the Pike, San Isabel, Cimarron, Comanche. So the Pike National Forest is next door to us, and we share quite a few of the headquarters level positions. And so we have a fire planner. That's somebody who really digs into the data and science of weather and fuels conditions and what fire might do based on those calculations. We have a shared aviation officer. We have no aircraft assigned to the Rio Grande, but we can use it when we need to, and when we need it, we can get it because we have that person in place. And then we have an incident business specialist that we share, and we don't have that person currently, but that's a position that keeps us out of trouble with accounting and budgets and finance and policy and procedure. And so that's pretty big for programs that get busy in the summer, to have somebody who's making sure that we're doing things right. And moving down as we tier out of the main forest headquarters positions, we have folks that work at a zone level or district level. And zone for us actually means the entire forest. That's how small we are, because we just don't have the personnel or the space for them. So we're a little bit smaller than some forests. And with that, we have a zone assistant fire management officer that covers our supervision of our fire suppression resources. And then we have a zone assistant fire management officer for fuels, which is prescribed fire. And that's a brand new employee that'll be showing up here next month. And he'll be based out of Saguache, and we're excited to have him back. He's an old Rio hand from years ago, and he's coming home. And then we have some newer positions. We have a lead prescribed fire and fuels position that'll be based out of the supervisor's office in Del Norte. And then we have a fire prevention person who will work basically out of the Divide Ranger District, but will provide coverage and service for the forest for prevention patrol and public education and awareness. And so we're excited to have that person. We've had the position, but we just filled it after it being vacant for a season. So excited about that. Then we get into the fun stuff. So these are the folks that these are who I'm here to brag about. These are some people that go above and beyond every day to be a part of the community and do more. And so with that, we have three and a half modules that we stand up yearly to help us with our, fire prevention, fire suppression, and prescribed fire activities. And we have an engine based out of Conejos Peak and La Jara, one out of Sawatch, and then we have the prevention person has a smaller vehicle, but it's still capable. It's based out of Del Norte, the Divide District. And then we've converted our historic fuels module into what's called a wildfire module, and we'll kind of get into what the differences are and all these terms that I'm throwing out there here in a second. But that's a brand new designation, and they'll be in training status for a number of years until they're signed off regionally and ready to go out and do amazing things. So let's talk about our engines. So again, we have 2 engines, and what's neat about this region, which is Colorado and Wyoming and South Dakota and Kansas and Nebraska, it's a pretty big region, but they've invested in converting our workforce into a permanent full-time organization. So that means we have people available year-round, and that helps us both locally and nationally. So we have dedicated professional folks. This is their job. It's not like when I was in college and it didn't pay for tuition. This is what people do for a living. And so on our engines, we have 4 of those positions out of the 5-person crew are permanent year-round employees. And these engines are our primary initial attack resource. So when the bell rings, these are the folks that are the first ones out the door. And, that's huge for us. They pack a variety of qualifications and skills and abilities. And so it's when one of those green trucks rolls out the door, I'm pretty okay with what the outcome may be, because they're solid folks and they have sound decision-making skills, and makes my life easy when I'm explaining why to my bosses, because we all have a boss. And these engines don't just go to wildland fires. They're not just going to fire all day, every day. They are the backbone of our prescribed fire program, which occurs on the shoulder seasons of the fall and spring. And that could be anything from burning the slash debris from timber sales to broadcast burning of large tracts of forest land to increase biodiversity, forest health, and minimize or decrease the effects of wildfire. So that's a big thing. Another thing they do that folks don't really think about is, those are big green trucks running around the valley. People pay attention when they're coming down a forest road, and so they're a good public education tool while they're out on their day-to-day duties. And so it's, that's another good thing. It's public aren't afraid of that vehicle, and so they're a good voice for our messaging to our public and to our end users. People love recreating in the forest, and these folks are here to educate you on the hows and whys, and so it's nice having them there. And then something that's, I wouldn't say it's new, it's been around for about 10 to 15 years now, is that we have standardized our fleet to where it doesn't matter if the module and the vehicle is coming from Pennsylvania or from Portland, Oregon, you're getting the same product, the same qualifications, the same ability. So it really helps us nationally. So again, we got 631. They're based out of La Jara. They're at CP, and they're okay. I think they're just okay. No, solid folks, work hard. They're here to help meet the mission. And then we've got 671. that's based out of Saguache. I think they call that the Zappy Cat. I'm learning my lingo. But I figured it would be fun to kind of peel back the curtain so folks, see a little bit more than just a green truck down the road. So I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the fire module. So again, this is something that we stood up this winter from an existing crew. And the goal there is to have a resource capable of helping us manage incidents past the initial attack phase from the engines, and to manage fires in remote locations or in wilderness areas where we're using the managed fire practice and activity allowed by the Rio Grande Land and Resource Management Plan. And so we thought it was a good idea to help us manage fires in our wilderness areas where there's very limited values at risk, and the benefit to good fire outweighs putting a fire out. So we can talk about that in a second. So they're a 10-person mod, and the goal is that they'll be self-sufficient in remote conditions for up to 2 weeks at a time. One of the big differences between them and a typical 10 or 20 person crew is they got to bring the smarts to the game. There's some science and some nuance to what we're asking them to do. They help us paint a picture back at headquarters at the Forest Supervisor's office on our decision making and strategies. And so a big thing for them is the ability to plan, monitor, and manage both natural ignition, so lightning fire, and prescribed fires. So they have the ability to go in when qualified. That's the key. When qualified, to go in and they can run a fire or a project from beginning to end with limited input. And so that's something we're going to focus on with this module. And one of the big drivers for this is allowing fire on the Rio in the right areas to manage that fire, to let it run its natural course. So what would happen if we weren't here? And so within reason, that's something they're allowed to do. So it helps us meet resource and objectives set by forest leadership. And with this module, unlike the engines, there are only 4 permanents on that module at this time of a 10-person module. And that's just due to the sheer number of employees and qualifications we need to maintain to keep 10 year round. So moving out of discussions of our module configurations, so what do we do? How do we prepare? And so preparedness planning for me has always started basically the day after fire season's declared over. So it is cyclical in nature. It's every year. And for me, it starts once I catch my breath sometime around November. And you start putting the pieces together. And we've got this little image here, and that's our fire reporting system. And those hard to see green blobs are, fires from the previous year. And so this is a tool we use to report our incidents nationally. We go into a database that we can then use to pull data for reporting or for analyses. And so that's an important thing. So tons of reporting done at the end of the year, even though we don't want to. It's important so we can be better prepared for the following year, so we can track trends. That's a huge part of our analyses is tracking trends. And then also in that time of year, we start prioritizing training, because that's, to me, it's one of the most important things we do outside of that defined fire season is providing opportunities for our staff, for our employees, our firefighters to gain the knowledge, skills, and abilities to help me with our successional planning. Every workforce gets older. Ours just tends to get older faster. And so the ability to get these folks in as many classes as possible and provide them as many experiences as possible is really important to me. as the Forest FMO program manager for this organization is to get people ready for their not their next job, but the job after that. So it's really important to me. And then also, you know, we beat stuff up in this profession, be it chainsaws or pumps or personal gear. So there's a lot of time spent over the winter getting things dialed back in to have them fire ready come the spring. So in our training world, I've already hit on this. So training to me is really important. That off-season career development, that's huge for a variety of reasons. It exposes people to things they're uncomfortable with. It gets them in tune with their peer group, because if you stay in a region long enough, you'll go to same trainings with the same people over and over again. That creates your peer base that'll stay with you the rest of your professional career with the agency. And so that's really important to me. There is a metric ton of required annual training that our folks are required to go through. So anything from their annual fire refresher to their fitness tests to driver's tests, you name it, there's always something going on. There's never a dull moment when it comes to training. And I've already touched on employee development, but every year we bring new employees into the organization and into the agency as in the Forest Service as a whole. And it's really important for us to set them down, understand where they're at and where they want to go, and then help them get there. That's a huge piece of leadership for me and for our other leaders in the program. And then the last one is what we call on-the-job training. And it's no different than if you're a pipe fitter, a plumber, a lineman, or an electrician. There's tasks that have to be done to become proficient at your job. And so it can't be taught in the classroom. And so it's really important for us to capitalize on those on-the-job training opportunities. Now we get into the really fun stuff. So, you know, we use this term wildland fire management, and it's like titles of books, and there's curriculums about this. And I'm not gonna, this is straight out of our Rio Grande land and resource management plan for the forest. And what it's really saying is wildland fire management encompasses anything and everything between putting fires out or using prescribed fire, capitalizing on natural ignitions in the right area to help us move our forest into a healthier state. And so I'm not going to get on my soapbox about the why. It's just it is so important that we take a hard look at our land. And I'm not going to use nerd terms like fire regime and condition classes. We can later. But it's really important for us to use these opportunities if it helps us move the needle on forest health. So one of the biggest tools we can use for that is our prescribed fire and fuels program. So fuels is the overarching term we use. And the end state of that is removing burnable material to lessen or diminish the effects of unwanted fire. So, treated areas respond better to wildfire than untreated areas. And so if there's things we can do around communities or in holdings or infrastructure, that's where we focus our energies on any forest, not just the Rio. And so the goal of reducing this forest by its horizontal arrangement, it's like how many trees per acre do we have, or changing up the vertical arrangement by limbing things to where ground fire won't get up into the canopy. And so these are things we do. And this picture here, sorry, it's not from the Rio. This is actually from the Wyoming side of the Black Hills, but this is a project I did years ago. That was a meadow restoration. And that's not grass over there. That's a lot of hard work. And so what it does is it gets that environment back to what it should look like. That knob there should look like this grass knoll in the forefront. So those are things we do based on, research and data and analyses by some people way smarter than me. So Fuels is a big component of our job. And we do it basically in two ways. So we have mechanical. So that's chainsaws, that's masticators, that is, fire breaks, that is, mowing. Mowing a pasture is mechanical treatment. So that's something that we do nationally. And then prescribed fire. So that's when we intentionally put fire on the ground. And that is only done through a long, arduous process of planning, preparation, and approval. So it's not five guys in a can of gas going out and having fun. There's a lot of work that went into those projects to get to that end state. And there's two basic ways we do this. The picture on the left is a pile burn after a timber sale, and that's where we take all the remaining vegetation on site, and that's how we help get rid of it. And then the picture on the right is a group of folks putting good fire on the ground on our terms, with a lot of things in play that help us minimize or negate any negative outcome. And all this work leads up to fire season. So we've talked about, how we're organized and how we start getting ready for the season and the training required, and how we use prescribed fire to help minimize fire effects. We also use those prescribed fire incidents as ways to get people ready to go back to work, to get their mind kind of wrapped back around being around fire. And so here locally, we'll be ready to go come late May. As it stands right now, all of our workforce has started work as of Monday. So they're going through all those required trainings that I mentioned. And once they get through this month of some critical training and some required activities on the forest, we'll roll into what we call our fire season staffing, our 7-day staffing. And what that means is that starting in June, there will be fire resources on every day of the week. Right now, we work a business person's Monday through Friday. But once it's time to go to work, our resources will be available. There will be resources available for response 7 days a week. And that is all coordinated by the Pueblo Interagency Dispatch Center in Pueblo. And with that gives us access to that additional support if we were to need it from our neighbors. So that's who moves the chess pieces around the board for us. And it's great to be part of such a large collaborative group, because help is just over the hill in Salida or in Canyon City, etc. So it's good for us. And throughout the season, we have the opportunity to send either individuals or entire modules off for us to gain different experience. And so if conditions allow that, we are very supportive of letting our personnel go and experience new things and meet new people. And with that, our resources do fall under a three-tiered umbrella of the national need, the regional need, and the local need. And so as things ramp up, prioritization is done at different levels. But the end state is our personnel forest-wide are available to support things regionally and nationally. I threw this slide in to kind of prime a little conversation about how we manage fire on the Rio. And so in our newest direction from our land and resource management plan, it gives us some clear direction on how to manage fire on the forest. So instead of everything gets put out immediately with no questions asked, it's now let's ask questions and then maybe put the fire out. And so to do that, we have determined two different zones of where we're going to look at fire. And so zone 1 is a resource restoration zone, and that is all of our wilderness, our recommended wilderness, and our roadless areas. And if you add those numbers up, that is roughly half of the acres on the forest. And then on the other side, we have what's called resource protection. And so those are general forest and rangelands that don't have hard designations like wilderness or roadless. The Wolf Creek ski area is part of that as a special designation. We have wild and scenic rivers in the mix. And so there's riparian areas and road corridors that meet criteria to be in the resource protection zone. So the end state is it allows us as fire managers and fire leadership to look at fire in areas where it would do more, there'd be more benefit than harm. And we have that luxury with these large wilderness areas. We have pine, 10,000 feet, there's limited risk to allowing fire under certain conditions. This is not a free-for-all. Under certain conditions, with the right resources to be able to let fire play a natural role on the forest. And so again, we have these fire response strategies. And so we have managed fire, where we will let fire run its natural course. And then there's areas where we will use a full suppression strategy based on the values at risk. Everything we do in the fire management suppression side, be it managed or putting a fire out, is based on values at risk. There's no piece of real estate on the Rio that is worth somebody's son or daughter being hurt over. So with our full suppression workload, it's any human caused fire we will put out. We have clear direction on that. We'll also put fires out where the values at risk outweigh the benefit that fire might have. And a lot of these decisions are based on determined objectives we've set through either our planning documents or through national or regional standard practices. And full suppression doesn't always mean heavy air tankers and helicopters and fire engines and bulldozers. There's a variety of tools available to us to manage fire in a way that can minimize impact to the land or reduce risk or exposure to our employees. And thanks, Greg. And it's not a one size fits all. And that's where those captains on those fire engine modules that I talked about, that's where those people earn their money, because they're able to relay back to us at the supervisor's office what they're seeing, what they expect to happen, and they help us. They're the ones, their awareness, their information sharing and gathering is what allows us to make those decisions to move fire in certain directions. So that's huge for us. And like I've stated, I get ahead of my bullets all the time. So it could be that really aggressive initial attack with all hands on deck, or it could be something as simple as fire's going to run out of legs here pretty soon. So all we got to do is clean up a piece of road and get it down to water. We have a lot of water in the forest. I think we'll be okay. And so it allows us to let those folks on the ground, give them some latitude to do the right thing in their purview. And the big takeaway here is that values at risk is how we determine our course of action. That's where decisions get made. It's not there's not one cookie cutter response. And so it's really important for us to convey that values at risk are huge for us. So managed emissions are natural starts. So natural means lightning. And so for us, we have some clear direction with some national policy, and we have new forest policy that is driving our desire to take a hard look at it. It's not set in stone. It's not cut and dried. And again, there's no right answer to this, but if it's the right place at the right time, it's worth considering. And the reason we do it is a lot of thought went into that forest plan direction. There is a plethora of science out there that shows both the resource benefit and the ability for some ecological restoration when we allow fire to play its natural course. And so it improves habitat, it improves soil, it improves nutrient value of grass and forbs. There's a ton of research and a ton of data that shows that in the right place at the right time, this is an amazing tool to help meet a multitude of objectives. And it's really important for us to consider that and to take a stab at implementing it. We're not going to do it in somebody's backyard, but above 10,000 feet, it's not a bad idea. And with all that, we have a set or a suite of tools available to help our decision support. And we run things through, I like to call these things kind of like a sausage grinder. We're making sausage, and the goal here is not to make like a low grade hot dog, but this is like artisanal sausage at a farmer's market. We want to put a lot of effort and time and attention into this to make sure that we're making the right decision, that we've considered all of our alternatives. We've taken feedback from specialists and in a lot of cases the public to make sure this is the right decision. So it's great. It's great for us to have that check in place. And so, the goal here is you have to have a decision. It doesn't have to be an immediate decision, but they need to be timely because people are waiting on direction. We have to constantly evaluate and assess these, and we're not making them alone. And that's the key for me is stakeholders, neighbors, partners all have the ability to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. Transparency is really important at this level. And now we're going to get into, that's a lot of stuff to digest. I hope I didn't burn anybody out, but it all ties into what are we going to do this year? What's this year look like? And so there's a lot of information that's at the public's hands through our Rocky Mountain Area Coordination Center website. And they do 120-day outlooks. They do 30-day outlooks. They have weather outlooks. There's a ton of data in there that help us determine as fire managers and forest leadership, what do we think is going to happen? And so with that, this 120 is started in April. And so the thing for us to look at is we're not doing too bad compared to Southeast Colorado, the plains. And, this El Nino is starting to wane down. That's a helpful thing. And what'll happen is, obviously as we get later into the spring and closer to summer, it's going to get a little bit warmer, but the perk about being at 8,000 feet elevation, it doesn't get too warm. And then, this is a really great graph to show you is that if we look at, drought analyses, and for us, if we look at last year, we look where we're at here and kind of see where we're at in Colorado there. You can see the Rio. It was a little above. And now we're looking to be back to normal. So that's great. Doesn't mean a whole lot because we know our lowlands, if we were to get a lot of moisture, that would mean a lot of grass. And then grass means a lot of fuel, and that means we're chasing BLM fires. So forest looking pretty good when it comes to drought conditions. We get into some precipitation. We did pretty good for our moisture this year for fairly dry part of the state. I'm going to skip past this guy because the next one I think tells us a better tale. So snowpack is pretty important to us, and if you look at where we're in that 107%. I mean, we had dipped into the 90s at one point a couple of months ago, and those last two storms we got pushed us back up to 100% plus, and that's good for us because that means we'll hold snow longer. Green up will be a little bit later, and so it makes for hopefully a fairly normal fire season here. And by normal, it means quiet, I hope. Moving on into this national image. And as you can see there, we in April are still out. Those big red blobs are red means bad on these. And as you can see, apologize for it not being the best slide. It was either this or show you a whole video. We're looking pretty good for any significant concerns here in the valley. And with that, I nailed it, Greg. I got you. So I'm gonna shut down my screen, I think. Let me see how we get back to that. And I think I go to this button here and stop that. And see if I can get back to Zoom. Nope. Gotta be here somewhere.
I think you're back.
I'm back. All right. I can't.
So two things here. First and foremost, I think I'll invite everybody again, as Kelly mentioned in the chat. Don't forget to let her know if you'd like to be included for the prize drawing tonight. We'll do that in just a couple of minutes here. But as always, we certainly like to open this session up for questions for Doug. This is your chance to reach out and almost physically touch a fire guy, which is a pretty cool thing to do in these day and age. So seriously, any questions available for the public? If not, I've got one for sure. So I'm going to let you guys go first, though.
I have a question.
Right on, Wyatt. Hello and welcome back.
Thanks. So what's the protocol if I'm kind of near in the summer, mostly in the Crete area. That's where I got a summer home there. But we're driving around or out hiking or something. We see a fire or smoke from a fire. Who do we call first, or what do we do to get it up to more quickly to the right people?
Best thing to do is call 911, and they will relay that to our dispatch center in Pueblo. We do have a number that it's posted throughout the forest, but the end state is you can never go wrong dialing 911, and they'll get that information, Rio Grande information to Pueblo. And so that's because, again, we have those great relationships with our county cooperators, so it'll get there.
Perfect example, Doug, of how folks might not know what to do is right there. I mean, I know how to get a hold of a local fire truck, but having a clue how to get a hold of the BLM or the Forest Service when we're out there. So yeah, we always encourage 911 because they're pretty quick getting us involved, and if we know the jurisdiction, but if you tell them where you are, that'll be pretty easy. And the other thing I might add in a response to that, Wyatt, is do we want the general public fighting fire. Doug, could you talk about that real quick?
Thanks, Greg. We would prefer you didn't. The variables of fire on the landscape, is on the side of the hill. Is it 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday on a south facing slope? There's things that you're not prepared for as general public, either with your equipment, your physical ability, and I'm gonna come back here for a second. Is that by policy, visitors are supposed to carry a shovel, axe, and bucket, and as a third generation Forest Service employee, my dad would tell stories about sitting at a portal sign on a county road checking for buckets, shovels, axes. And so it's there, but we in this day and age do not expect you as the general public. If it's an abandoned campfire and you've got some spare water, great. But don't put yourself or your family at risk because you think you're helping. I mean, there's a time and a place, and so there's so many variables here, Greg, that it's kind of hard for me to pin in. But yeah, if it's not something you can take a water bottle after, please just call it in.
That's exactly what I was looking for. As Doug mentioned, I was in the fire prevention business for 16 years, and a lot of folks would ask me that question, and 100% right where Doug said is, it's not your job to do that, one, and two, something he didn't mention is we need to know about those fires. Even if it's that little escape campfire that you could put out with everybody's water bottles, please let us know, okay? And the reason being is because if we're having a rash of fires that are started in a certain way, that could be a law enforcement matter as well. So, yeah, please just always get us involved as early as possible. Glad you asked the question, Wyatt. Opened a can of worms, didn't you? Right on. Any other questions for anybody to ask here? I mean, now's the time, right? And we'll just go a couple of minutes here and then we'll cut everybody loose. Oh, there's Patty. There you go. Do you have type 6 engines? And what determines those as opposed to a type 3 or 4 engine, Doug?
Excellent question. So engines it's a national classification from type 1 to type 7. So a type 1 engine is what you see at your fire department. They are big. They've got giant sirens. They're typically red. That's a type 1 engine. And typing is determined by the size of pump to move the water and how much water it carries. And so in the wildland side of the business, we run type 3 through type 7 engines. And so type 3 has a much larger pump. It's designed, they use them pretty exclusively in California and in the Northwest to move water up hillsides. And so they've got giant pumps and a small 500-gallon tank. Then a type 4 engine, they use those here in Colorado and Wyoming quite a bit. Utah, Arizona as well, Idaho. So it's got a smaller pump. It's designed to get into, they're also a larger truck. The 3s and 4s are larger trucks. The type 4 carries more water, smaller pump. Type 6 is what we use on the Rio, and a type 6 is kind of the most versatile platform we have. It looks like a really big pickup, and that allows us to get those into some of the smaller forest roads. A little easier to operate, not the same driving requirements. They carry 300 gallons of water, still can carry 5 people, but they're designed for, they're pretty handy in steep, rugged forests because we can get them in those little roads.
Yeah, and I put a photo in the chat there of that Type 6 engine that we typically use around most of Colorado. In fact, into Wyoming and Montana, you'll see mostly Type 6 engines. Certainly our BLM partners, though, have more often than not the Type 3s and 4s. So, yeah. Okay. Well, let's bring Kelly on, and she.
Oh, we have another question from the.
I'm sorry, I didn't
chat.
see.
I'll go ahead and take that. So, are there any other tools that are beneficial to the fire program? For example, drones. So, funny you mentioned that, Kaylee. I spent the afternoon here in Louisiana talking about UAS modules with our cooperators. And UAS, unmanned aerial systems, so drones, so to speak, are becoming more and more prevalent in the fire world, and they're not going away. As a matter of fact, they're gaining more and more popularity, and there's more and more applications. They're looking at those to add to the arsenal, anything from firing devices, which we're using right now, to reconnaissance. I remember not dating myself when they first came out years ago. They were good for about 20 or 30 minutes, and they'd take a lap around your fire and come back, and you'd have to go to someplace else to look at a video feed. Anyways, we're getting all this hand-me-down military technology, which is really bolstering our ability to get real-time data and assessments of what we're doing out there. So solid question, Kaylee, and they're not going anywhere. And memory serves, we're getting one of the forests. So stay tuned for that.
I can't wait to see the UASs or drones in action too. I feel like they're going to be an amazing tool, as long as we use them as such. All right. Well, Kelly, you're up. Yeah, let's do the drawing, and then I can close this out after that.
All right, sounds good. Well, Josh Romer, you won the tumbler. So if you'll stay on as we close things out, and we'll figure out how to get it to you, all right?
I think we know where to find Josh.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, yeah.
All right. Well, one last check on questions. Yeah, while we've got Doug on, this is a great time. You know, somebody with as much experience in fire management is great to be able to chat with. So, and I will offer for Doug, y'all might know where to find me. If you don't, you can see my name. All you have to do is Google it, or pull up this recording when it comes onto the San Juan Mountains Association website, and find me and email me your questions that I can get to Doug for you. And with that, on behalf of San Juan Mountains Association, our amazing partners, and the Rio Grande National Forest, I'd like to say thank you all for attending tonight's Forest Specialist Series. Next month, Kelly and I have some special times in our lives where our seniors are graduating from high school. So we've opted to not have a May program next month. So with that, we'll see you in June, and that should be an exciting program. I think we have
The SLV apothecary is coming in.
yeah, that's right. Okay, I was wrong then, so I'm glad you did. That should be fun.
They're going to talk about foraging, responsible foraging practices. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Yeah, me as well. And as always, please look on our Facebook events page for that information, or as well on the Forest main homepage. And at the bottom of that, you'll find the Forest Specialist Series program. Again, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate everybody, and we hope you have a happy and safe fire season. And of course, Doug, thank you for presenting today.